Hello there, and welcome to the Dudes Being Guys Sports Podcast, Episode 3. My name is Marco Yerkovich, and joining me as always is...
Easton Nelson.
Also joining us today for the first time is...
Colton Deneen.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing our top 5 wide receivers in the NFL, our Week 1 college football predictions, Odell Beckham Jr. and Aaron Rodgers' new contracts, Manu Ginobili's retirement, the Boston Celtics' health, and the new NBA rule changes for the 2019 season. All right, Easton, let's get right into it with your top 5 wide receivers.
All right, at number 5, I have DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins to me is super underrated. He's fast. He can jump around. He can get any ball that you throw at him. He's proven that he can do it without a great quarterback by him, and we'll see what he can do with Deshaun Watson this year.
Yeah, I like DeAndre Hopkins at 5. That's actually where I have him, so that's a pretty good placement to me.
Very solid wide receiver. He can take the Texans to a whole new level.
Yeah. At number 4, I have Odell Beckham Jr., as he just got his new contract the other day. For me, he's the most exciting wide receiver to watch, and if he stayed more healthy, I think he'd be higher up on my list. But he also lets his emotions get the best of him, and sometimes it hurts the team. So,
yeah, I actually have Odell at number 4 as well. So, but yeah, he's probably the most explosive wide receiver at his age. He's the youngest on this list. He's 25 years old. He, of course, has the GOAT of all catches, like...
The one we'll always remember.
Yeah, the one we'll always remember, like, the one that made him a household name, like, that would be enough to put him on this list, honestly. But, like, he's also has a tremendous receiving record. He has the most receptions, yards, and touchdowns through 3 seasons, more than any other wide receiver in NFL history. That includes Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Antonio Brown. So he's pretty prolific for a guy his age.
Oh, yeah. At number 3, I have AJ Green. With his 6'4" size, he can pretty much out-jump any cornerback that's in the league. He'll catch anything that you throw his way, and he can do it all. Hopefully, he and Andy Dalton can get back to what they did back in 2 years ago.
Yeah, honestly, I know this is a point of contention for us. The Bengals are really not that good, but they have AJ Green, and that's really all they have.
And
So,
a
I mean,
defense.
Joe Mixon.
They don't have a defense.
Have you
Joe
seen their
Mixon is
defensive line?
worthless.
6 or 5 sacks. The other
Clemson's defensive line is better than the Bengals' defensive line.
Vontez Burfict will just get suspended again
Exactly.
within
He's
the
not the
first
defensive
2
line.
games.
we got Geno Atkins, Carlos Dunlap.
Oh,
You know those 2 names that just got
yes,
signed
I
the
know
other
those
day?
2 names. Can you name 2 more names?
Yes, I can. Carl Lawson and Michael Johnson.
Nope, nothing.
Carl Lawson, he had the most sacks from a defensive end rookie last year.
Oh,
I still
Big
think
deal.
AJ Green's too high on your list.
I
You're
mean,
an idiot.
we literally have like the same list. I have DeAndre Hopkins at 5, Odell at 4, AJ Green at 3. But honestly, in my opinion, Odell, if he hadn't gotten injured, he'd probably be higher up on this list. But like in the next 2 or 3 seasons, he'll probably be either second or at the top of this list, depending on how the rest of these guys'
hmm
careers pan out.
And this is where I think yours and mine are different. As I have Antonio Brown at number 2, which I think overall he's the best wide receiver in the league. But as he leads the league in receiving yards like every year, it seems like. But I can see him doing it again this year, and I think he could be an MVP candidate. But he plays for the Steelers.
I mean, Antonio Brown is okay, so you know what? We're not even gonna have to go over my list because our lists are so similar. But I have them switched. I have Julio Jones at 2 and Antonio Brown at 1. And I don't know. I just think Antonio Brown he's so prolific, but he's so consistent. Like, for instance, like this season, Antonio Brown had 9 touchdowns, which is like the least he's had over the past 4 years, right? But
Was he
Julio
injured for a
Jones
little
only
bit?
had 3 touchdowns this year.
Was
That's
Antonio
surprising.
injured a little bit?
No, I think he played 14 games, yeah.
Yeah.
And he
so-
still had 101 receiving receptions, 1,500 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Missed 2 games. And he still had 6 more touchdowns than Julio Jones. Like, I'm a fan of Julio Jones, and I mean, clearly, he's the number 2 wide receiver in the NFL right now. He actually holds a pretty astonishing record. 95.3 receiving yards per game. That's his mark for his career. That's the highest in NFL history. 95
Really?
yards a game. That's more than Jerry Rice. That's more than Randy Moss. That's a pretty impressive record to hold.
That is. And my argument for Julio Jones at number 1 is he's the closest thing to Calvin Johnson since Calvin Johnson.
I mean, I guess, yeah, his size, like that catch in the Super Bowl that should have been the catch of the game, the catch of the year, like that really didn't mean a lot. Like he played so tremendous in that game, and he's been playing great like for so many years, right? He's been a Pro Bowler every single season, right, of his career, which is pretty impressive. And I think especially with the Falcons offense, how predicated it is on the pass game and like how they keep just restocking wide receivers. I think Julio Jones is pretty prolific, but yeah.
He's the one receiver where I'd just be like, you throw it up, he's going to come down with it no matter what, more than any other wide receiver, I think.
I mean, yeah, I think so, but I think both Antonio Brown and Julio Jones are probably
they're in their own tier.
Yeah, they're in their own tier above AJ Green, Odell, and DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
But I think also lending themselves with that, those two top receivers. Also, I think the Falcons and Steelers overall have the two best receiving cores in the NFL.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
I think because the Steelers, they have,
Juju
Smith-Schuster. They got Ryan Switzer. They also have Nate Washington. And the Falcons,
Mohamed
Sanu, Julio Jones, and they just got Calvin Ridley from Alabama in the draft. Right. So I think those are the two best receiving cores. But so that's our top five. We basically have the same top fives. I think, Colton, you have one difference. Can you tell us that one difference on your list?
Actually, it's two differences. Just I put Mike Evans instead of AJ Green.
Get out of here.
You're an idiot again.
He's a very solid wide receiver.
He's solid, but not better than AJ Green.
Yeah, for the Buccaneers. What have the Buccaneers done?
Drafted Jameis Winston, and he steals crab legs.
And does a bunch of
as long
other
as those
really
crab
bad
legs
things.
were good, it's
Definitely.
worth it.
That's something we're going to have to get into eventually. The Buccaneers are a mess. Jameis Winston is a mess.
Got to give respect to Levante David, though.
Yeah.
My man from Nebraska.
All right.
All-star of all all-stars.
All right, we're getting way off tangent.
Yes, we are.
So that's our top five wide receivers in the NFL. On to some other big news from the NFL, from the Shield. Odell Beckham Jr. has agreed to a new contract with the New York Giants. He agreed to a 5-year extension that will make him the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. The extension is worth $95 million over those 5 years, with $65 million guaranteed. And he got this coming off an ankle injury that he suffered in 2017, which limited him to 4 games. So, your guys' thoughts on this contract?
I think he definitely deserves that contract because on my list he's the 4th best wide receiver, which I mean that's deserving of that much money. And like I said, I wish he didn't let the emotions get to him. Like when he played Josh Norman, was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, and they had that fight.
That huge
and
fight.
His celebrations are pretty.
I like that though, but
yeah,
it sometimes hurts the team.
Yeah, and the older audience that is watching thinks it's kind of obscene, but it's entertaining and it's like really attention grabbing, and it's what we like to see. But he's such a flashy, talented wide receiver.
The thing that I like about Odell is he can go deep and he can run the slot. He can go on the slants. He's faster than most of. He and Antonio Brown are probably the two that you could put in the slot.
Oh
most.
Yeah, I think Antonio Brown and Odell especially, they're probably better utilized in the slot. Where Jones and especially AJ Green are
go deep,
more outside receivers. Yeah. So basically, the thing that this boils down to is now Eli Manning's getting older, and Saquon Barkley is still kind of young.
He's definitely the future of the Giants.
But right now, basically, what the Giants are telling me by signing him to this is Odell is the face of the franchise now. And can you or will you let the face of your franchise be someone this immature? And clearly the Giants have sent that message by saying, we believe in him by doing this.
He's also a very popular football player around the world.
Yeah, but I mean, popular doesn't necessarily mean responsible or, Dennis Rodman's popular, but would you want him to be like the face of your franchise? Do you want Jameis Winston being the face of your franchise?
Yeah,
I mean, maybe for the Browns.
The Browns are in a better spot right now than the Buccaneers.
That's fair.
I mean, yeah. So Odell Beckham Jr., new contract, 5 years, $95 million, $30 million in incentive-based goals, which he'll probably get because, again, he's a highly productive, talented wide receiver. So 5 years, $95 million. Oh boy, that's a lot of money. All right, so now into some college football, our week 1 college football predictions. Each week we will be doing our predictions, and then also later on when we have predictions to look back on, we'll do that as well. I think we're going to keep a record tally, and then the person with the best record at the end of the year. I don't know what we'll do.
It's gonna be me.
Yeah, sure. All right. So let's go
We'll
game.
see.
Let's go game by game around the group. So Easton, San Diego State at number 13. Stanford. Who do you have in that?
I have Stanford. I think they have the best the offensive line and the running back in the nation. I think they'll just tear up the defense of San Diego State.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting to note that last year with Rashad Penny, Heisman candidate for the Aztecs, they actually did beat Stanford. But yeah, I think Stanford, just in the trenches, they just have more size on the offensive line and defensive line. I pick Stanford.
I picked Stanford as well. Bryce Love, definitely going to be in the talks for Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, Heisman favorite going into this season, actually, with the Vegas Oddmakers.
He's my
yeah.
choice for Heisman, yep.
Yeah. All right, so next game up, actually, I should mention, we are doing this in chronological order, so from the earliest games to the latest games. So the next game, we have Florida Atlantic at number 7, Oklahoma.
I have Oklahoma winning. That is because, well, Lane Kiffin's coming back to Oklahoma. They're going to be mad. They're going to want to win. They're playing their old coach. And I just think Oklahoma has more talent than Florida Atlantic overall.
All right, so I'm up. This is going to shock you. And I know Oklahoma is super talented, like Kyler Murray, tremendous quarterback, but he might play baseball. Their wide receiver core is probably the best, but they don't have the best defense. I'm picking Florida Atlantic.
Florida Atlantic has the best defense?
No, Oklahoma doesn't have that great of a defense. I don't know. I'm picking
okay.
Florida Atlantic on this one.
I can see why you choose them.
Lane Kiffin is an offensive, maestro. They got Devin Singletary, one of the 5 best running backs in the country. They have a bunch of transfers competing for the quarterback spot right now, including a guy from Oklahoma. So, I think this Florida Atlantic game, this could be a statement game to show Lane Kiffin he's going to put them on the map for sure. I've got FAU in this one.
I disagree with you, Marco. I agree with you, Easton. I got Oklahoma for this, but I think it'll be a very competitive and close game.
Yeah, this is going to be a typical Big 12 barn burner, like 60-50 or something. This is going to be crazy.
I'll have to see
I think Oklahoma just, in the end, has more talent than them. I love what Lane Kiffin is doing with Florida Atlantic. He's definitely putting them on the map. I could see them being in the top 25 by the end of the season.
Yeah, very easily. All right, so next up we have Tennessee versus number 17, West Virginia. This is a neutral site game which will take place in Charlotte, North Carolina. Easton, your pick?
I have West Virginia just because of Will Grier. I want to see what he can do.
Yeah, I have West Virginia as well, but I have them because of Will Grier, but also the second half of that partnership, which is David Sills V, the wide receiver. He might become a Heisman candidate, both of them somehow, or he can definitely compete for the Biletnikoff Award, the wide receiver award. Yeah, West Virginia is far more talented than Tennessee in my eyes.
Yeah, I got West Virginia winning that game as well. Will Grier, he's a stud, also a Heisman contender. I just think Tennessee, they don't have enough talent. West Virginia will pull it out.
All right, so next up, probably the biggest game of the weekend, a marquee matchup, number 6, Washington versus number 9, Auburn in Atlanta, Georgia, as a neutral site game. Playoff implications. Easton, your pick.
I have Washington. Both teams have a great defensive line, but I think Washington has more of an experienced offense. That's going to come down to what I think is going to make them win, but the game is in Atlanta, so Auburn does have the home field advantage pretty much.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. And honestly, this game could go either way. Obviously, whoever wins this is definitely in the driver's seat in their conference and as a title contender. And the loser probably most likely will have to go perfect through the rest of their season to make the playoff, as we've yet to see a 2-loss team in the playoff. But I'll go the other way as you. I'm actually picking the Auburn Tigers in this one. Washington definitely has the more experienced offense, while Auburn's defense, I think, is better than Washington's offense is better. So I'm picking Auburn in this one. I think it's going to be a really close game, and what it'll come down to, it's going to be Auburn's ability to run the ball on the Washington defense. It's going to be a real close one, like 21-17. I think Auburn's going to win it.
I got Auburn with this game. It's going to be such a fun game to watch. The defensive battle versus the overpowering offense of Washington. but it'll be a very low-scoring game, I think. 17-14 is about my pick for that.
I think it'll be a field goal game where it's 3 points from
Yeah,
the
it's
final
going to be a
score.
really close game, but it's definitely going to be fun to watch. That one's at 2:30 on ABC. I know where I'm going to be on Saturday. I'm definitely going to be watching
Sitting
that
on your
game.
couch.
Yeah, sitting on the couch watching that game. All right, another top 25 matchup, a marquee matchup here on the opening weekend of college football. Number 14, Michigan at number 12, Notre Dame on Saturday at 6:30. Who do you have in that one, Easton?
I have Michigan. I love this rivalry. It's historic. It's always fun to watch. Michigan has an elite defense, and I don't think Notre Dame's going to be able to score on them.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of have it for the same reason you do. I have Michigan winning. It's a really fun, historic rivalry to watch. Michigan's defense is going to be so tough to get past this year. Rashawn Gary and Chase Winovich on defense. I mean, those two guys just hit the defensive end spots are going to be so tough to run against, and Michigan's offense will figure it out. Jim Harbaugh will step up and make a game plan to get past Brian Kelly and the Fighting Irish.
I got the Fighting Irish with this game. Ever since Jim Harbaugh took over for Michigan, they have not won the clutch games, any of the big games
Fair
at all.
point.
We've seen that when they played Michigan State a few years ago, the blocked punt, saw that against Ohio State, and I'm fairly sure we'll see it again against Notre Dame. I just feel like Michigan's just one of the most unclutched teams we've seen.
I mean, that's a pretty fair argument. Jim Harbaugh has really struggled in like those big matchups. He's 0-3 against Ohio State, 1-2 against Michigan State, and 1-1 against Wisconsin. But I think this is you're right. This is a game he's got to prove himself, but I believe that Michigan can win this game, and this is going to be a start to a really, really great season for the Wolverines.
Another very close game, too.
Yeah, very close game. Probably going to be more predicated in the run, but it's going to be really fun to watch. So next game we have Akron at Nebraska Saturday at 7 o'clock. Scott Frost homecoming. It's going to be the first game under Scott Frost's era. What's your pick?
I have Nebraska. Like you said, Scott Frost's first game back at Nebraska. The stadium's going to be rocking. I believe it'll be a blowout, to be honest. Akron, Nebraska. Nebraska's just going to have all the energy from the fans. And I'm excited to see how Adrian Martinez, the freshman quarterback, will do.
Yeah, I mean, we have a ton of top 25 matchups this weekend, but could you have a better story than a historic program that last won a title game more than 20 years ago under a famous head coach in Tom Osborne? In the last season that Tom Osborne coached Nebraska, the quarterback that led them to that national title game was Scott Frost, and now he is, 20 years later, the head coach for Nebraska. The tunnel walk, the whole game, the stadium's going to be rocking, as you said, the sea of red. It's going to be electric. Could you ask for a better story? And Nebraska is going to absolutely pummel Akron.
Just another, there's an update about Nebraska. The Husker former quarterback Tristan Gebbia just committed to Oregon State.
Is that going to be next season or this season?
I think he's going to have to sit out a year.
He's going to have to sit out a year.
I think he got inspired by Mike Riley.
Didn't he go to assistant coach there?
Yeah,
So,
he's an assistant coach there now. Well, that's an interesting thing now that coaches are going to have to deal with. You kind of see this with Nick Saban as he's kind of dragging out that Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts quarterback battle. We all know that Tua's the more talented passer, and they're both really great runners, so Tua's probably going to get the job. But because the redshirt rules and the transfer rules now apply for 4 games, you're going to see these coaches having to drag out these QB and these position battles for like the entire month of September. Right, it's going to be a really interesting thing. So now moving on to our next pick, we have number 1 Alabama versus Louisville. It's a neutral site game in Orlando. Who do you have in that one, Easton?
I have Alabama. To me, this is a no-brainer. Alabama is always the best team, or it seems like they're the best team. And I can't wait to see how Tua Tagovailoa does. And I don't think Louisville will be as dominant as they were with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jalen Hurts is also going to play in this one a little bit, but Tua Tagovailoa is probably going to split time, but I think Alabama's going to absolutely crush Louisville. And what'll be really interesting, I think Louisville's probably going to be 9-3, maybe 10-2, maybe 8-4, but probably 9-3, and they'll finish the season as a top 25 team. So this will become a better win as the season goes on and on for Alabama. You'll look back and say, "Wow, they beat Louisville." So this is going to help Alabama down the line.
Roll Tide for this game. Alabama is one of the most dominant teams we've ever seen. Pretty much any player at any position could go NFL and be a very solid player. I'm interested to see how the quarterback race ends out. I'm fairly certain Tua Tagovailoa will win that because he's by far the better player, but Alabama's definitely going to win this game.
Okay, and who do you have in the Nebraska-Akron game? I skipped you.
Go Big Red.
Yes.
I know that's a really tough pick for you. Akron seems like a real tough team.
They're gonna bring LeBron James since Dwayne Wade's coming for the Nebraska game.
You're
Yeah, I
being
mean,
so
maybe
extra right now.
He
All
could
right.
Yes, we
convince.
are. We need to keep going.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
gotta
I'm not even
gotta
gonna
keep
go into
moving.
what I
All
was
right.
gonna say.
Number 8 Miami versus number 25 LSU. This game's actually on Sunday at 6:30 on ABC. Who do you guys have in this one?
This is my upset for this week. I have LSU winning this one. Miami's defense is elite, but I think that LSU's offense can break through them, and they'll get the win with a narrow victory.
All right, so LSU teams are notoriously bad at passing the ball, on top of the fact that Miami forced the most turnovers of any team this year. 30 turnovers they created. That's pretty impressive. That turnover chain's going to be out a lot on Sunday in Death Valley. And honestly, Miami is going to scorch LSU.
You think
They're
so?
going to be much better. I mean, this is going to be a defensive game, but I think Miami's just so much better.
I
They're
can
going to really
see-
show that they're
I can see
they're a
Miami
national
winning,
contender.
I gotta go with Miami with this one. I can't stand them personally, but I agree. Their defense, pull out the chain. They're gonna force a ton of turnovers again this year. LSU, obviously, with their terrible passing, they're not gonna get far against this team.
All right, so the last game that we're going to be predicting today is number 20 Virginia Tech at number 19 Florida State. That's the Labor Day game on ESPN at 7 o'clock. So, Easton, who do you have in that one?
I have Florida State. Virginia Tech lost a ton of people, it seems like, at the end of last year. And with the game being in Florida, I think that gives Florida State the edge over them.
Yeah, I also have Florida State. DeAndre Francois, who was out since week 1 when he got his shoulder injured against Alabama. I think Florida State's the far better team, and I've got them winning this game.
I got Florida State with this game also. The home field advantage, Francois is back. They do have a new coach, but that shouldn't really matter too much. They're a better team. Virginia Tech lost a ton of people. Florida State's going to win.
Yeah, Florida State still had a really good recruiting class on top of Willie Taggart, the new head coach. He inherited a lot of talent from Jimbo Fisher. So I think Florida State is going to be a better team than a lot of people realize just because of how badly they played last season. All right, so on to one of our segments here today. Coming up now, we got Nostradamus. So today's Nostradamus, you already kind of heard a preview of it. I believe that the Lane Kiffin-led Florida Atlantic Owls can beat number 7 Oklahoma in Week 1 in Norman. Now, I know this is a bit of a stretch, but hey, in this segment, I like to swing for the fences. Now, speaking of swinging for the fences, let's take a look and check in on last week's prediction, which was that I thought that the Boston Red Sox could end the season with 116 wins. That was pretty ambitious, but the Red Sox are currently 90-42, meaning to reach 116 wins, they need to finish 26-4.
Just got swept by the Rays, too.
Yeah, that's
Not
probably
a
not
great
going to
start
happen.
to your
You know what?
prediction.
Don't count them out. You never know. It could happen.
Red Sox are super dominant this
Yeah,
year.
They're
They have-
super
they
dominant,
have
but
talent.
116 wins is a bit much. I originally, when I was writing this prediction last week, I put 110, but then I Googled the most all-time wins, and I was like, it's 116. Why not just go for that? And I was like, how hard could it be? Turns out it's pretty hard to get to 116 wins. So
They can only lose, 4 more games?
yeah, 4 more
Yeah,
games, and that
4
was
games.
That's tough.
that was even a couple days ago. I think I checked that. So I mean, yeah, they'll probably make it to 110 wins, which is still an impressive accomplishment. Only a handful of teams have done that, but 116 wins, I may have gone a little overboard on that one, but hopefully I
hot
don't go a
take.
little too
It's what it's
overboard on
supposed
this
to be.
week.
These are supposed to be bold predictions.
I mean, they
You
are
made a
bold
prediction.
predictions. Damn, right? They make you say damn. And Florida Atlantic trying to beat Oklahoma in Norman. That's pretty damn. So that's
I
my
don't
prediction.
See that. I don't see that.
Well,
I still think it'll be
it's
a
your
great
prediction.
game to
it's
watch.
my wild, crazy prediction. You know what? I need one of these to be right, and that's all I need.
I can't wait to have mine next week because that's going to be controversial.
Yeah. Okay.
I still need to find one.
All right. So next up we have Aaron Rodgers agreeing to a new deal with the Green Bay Packers. He agreed to a 4-year extension with 2 years still left on his current deal. The extension is worth $134 million with $103 million guaranteed. He's coming off a left clavicle injury, which caused him to miss the last 9 games of last season. And that caused the Packers to miss the playoffs for the first time since 2009, which was Rodgers' first year taking over as starter in Green Bay. Your thoughts on this contract, guys?
To me, Aaron Rodgers is the second best quarterback in football, so he deserves that contract. But his injury, I don't think it'll affect him at all because, I mean, didn't he come back last year? He came back towards the end.
Yeah, he came back at the end, but yeah, he did miss 9 games, and again, they missed the playoffs, which is
I think they'll be back in the playoffs with him.
yeah. It's kind of interesting though because Green Bay is now in what is going to be actually a really tough division. The division has not been great throughout most of the Aaron Rodgers era in Green Bay.
Except for the Vikings, really.
Yeah, the Vikings are just now getting really good.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see what Aaron Rodgers can do. I think because I got Jimmy Graham, but this is well deserved. He probably deserves to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL ever.
But I mean, Easton, thanks for saying he's number 2. You're agreeing with my list from last week.
And when and if Tom
way to
Brady,
keep
it's hard to say.
The
but
consistency.
when and if Tom Brady retires, Rodgers will be ready to step up as the number 1 QB in the NFL.
If
Tom Brady
Yeah.
is the best quarterback of all time.
Oh yeah, you know what? More people need to say that. I think they just need to get over their gripe with the Patriots because he is the best. So all right,
He just
well
cheats.
we somehow don't even start that. We somehow went from Aaron Rodgers to
Please
Tom
don't
Brady
get back
okay,
into
in
the-
2
into the
minutes. All right,
Deflategate.
God. All right, so next up we're going to be talking about the NBA rule changes for the upcoming 2019 season. Now these are proposals, but they will most likely be adopted in some form or the other. So the changes are the shot clock being reset to 14 seconds after the offensive rebound instead of 24, the simplification of the clear path foul rule, and expanding the reviewability of hostile acts. So your guys' thoughts on those, we'll just kind of go in order. On the first one, the shot clock rule.
I don't like it, but I mean, when you get an offensive rebound, it's usually the center, and he puts it straight back up, so it doesn't always. You don't need 24 seconds to do that. But once the center is contested or whatever, and they have to pass back out, that's a short amount of time that they have to either reset their offense or they're just gonna have to chuck a shot, I think.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have time to reset offenses. The only thing that this is really going to do is, of course, increase the speed of play, as you alluded to, but it's also just going to increase scoring. The scores are going to be much higher because of this. This seems like such a minute change, but the amount of
It's gonna
times
affect it a lot.
offensive rebounds are gathered in games is quite a bit, of course, in the NBA.
I also think that the value of centers like Steven Adams or Clint Capella might not be as the teams aren't going to want them as much because the offensive rebound. I don't think it's going to be as important.
Yeah, people don't really grab offensive rebounds that much anymore. But honestly, yeah, this is going to make offensive rebounds just a hassle, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan of this new rule, but it's definitely something all the players in general are going to have to adjust to. People are going to have to start going in more for offensive rebounds, and it will definitely speed up the game. But you'll just have to change some of your play styles to adjust.
I mean, it doesn't why do we need this rule change? This doesn't.
Yeah, it seems like
this
not
doesn't
needed.
make any sense.
It's not needed.
Yeah. In what way do you think this is a good rule change?
Well, I mean, people do come to the games for all the scoring. Let's be honest.
But we're scoring in the triple digits in 90% of the games.
I mean, the game's already fast enough.
Yeah, the game's already so fast.
Yeah.
We could honestly change the shot clock to 30 seconds and we'd almost be better off. But this rule is this is ridiculous. It's clearly to just speed up play and increase the score. What purpose would this rule change ever serve? This is so unnecessary.
Yeah, I agree. And on to the simplifying of the clear path foul. To me, the clear path foul is it's super easy to tell. I don't know why they get it wrong so often.
It's not that hard.
If the player is grabbing on and he's behind him, it's a clear path foul. If he's in front of him, then it is. I don't get
Well, yeah, that makes sense, but I think the problem they're having is in transition, if you're passing it or you're shooting, in transition, especially around like the mid-court area in between the 3-point lines, that's where a lot of the clear path fouls occur. And I can see the point where you don't want to call it, because the player, like if it's like a 2-on-2 fast break, like they might not score, but I think it's definitely necessary to call this more often because it's kind of like a better version of the new, like the targeting rules in the NFL. I think as soon as you start calling this is people aren't going to do this anymore because it's just a reckless foul and it hurts your team.
I mean, you don't really see it that much anyways. Whenever I watch
it happens like once a game maybe. So I mean, but it'll get cleaned up, and I think this rule will definitely help to serve to kind of just get this out of the way. I don't think this will happen much anymore.
Yeah, I'm pretty indifferent on this new rule. I mean, like you said, it only happens a couple times a game. It's not going to change that much. But I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah, I think this rule's it's interesting because it doesn't really matter, but I think it's one of those things where they had to go review a lot of stuff. And this should help clean that up. But speaking of reviewing, so now they're also going to expand the reviewability of quote unquote hostile acts. I mean, there's plenty of times in the NBA when violent things happen on the court, and I guess those would be more reviewed for technical and flagrant fouls. Your thoughts on this?
I don't know how I feel about this. I like it and I don't. I hate watching a game and something small happens and they have to review it and it just stops the play. But I can also see it because, I mean, if it's super violent, they're definitely going to need to have to stop and review and see what they need to do to the player that caused it. But I just hate watching a game and something little and they just stop the play of game.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't football. Basketball's fast-paced, and they constantly want to keep things going. They want to review as little as possible. And what I'm afraid is what you kind of alluded to is they're going to start reviewing far too many things. Sure, there's certain really vicious things that happen in basketball games, but not that often. And those things should be reviewed, but they can't stop this for every little, like, tug of the jersey, every little shove. Like, that stuff is going to have to be let go if this rule is to be effective. This is to protect people from, again, like, very dangerous things, and they can't overuse this rule.
This is why the old NBA players call this league soft, is because we keep adding this stupid stuff that doesn't really need to be there.
Well, yeah, this game's going to turn into soccer almost. You touch a guy and he'll fall over and they'll review it for 10 minutes.
That is a
Please don't hate on me in the
unnecessary
comments.
shot.
Please don't hate on me in the comments for that, but let's be honest.
I hope people do. That was so unwarranted. That's so
He's gonna be
unnecessary.
Neymar.
His name is Colton Deneen. Send hate mail. Are you serious? You're gonna.
We don't even have a P.O. box.
You know what? Send hate mail
We're
in the
too poor
comments.
for that right now.
Jeez, that's so unnecessary. Are you serious?
Hey, come on, dude.
Throwing hate
Stop
on
agree.
soccer. If you're gonna hate on a
rules,
sport,
dude.
at least hate on lacrosse.
Jake, I hope you're watching this.
Please watch this, Jake.
Lacrosse is such an unnecessary sport. Why do we have it? It's. I don't get it.
You can talk to Jake about
Play
this.
football, play soccer, play hockey. Just pick a sport. Don't throw it all together. Decide what you want to do. God, lacrosse is worthless. You
All right,
heard
let's
it here
continue
first.
on.
All right, yeah. You know what? We're getting on a tangent.
Yeah.
You guys are getting me off.
I'm sorry.
unfocused. All right. So it's time for another one of those beloved segments of ours. It's the Dude of the Week. All right, so this week's Dude of the Week is JT Daniels, who is the freshman starting quarterback for the USC Trojans football team. Being a starting freshman quarterback at a Power 5 school is a pretty amazing accomplishment, but it's not super rare. Nebraska, Minnesota, amongst other schools, maybe Clemson actually, will have freshmen starting this year. But what's really spectacular about Daniels specifically is that he is 17 years old and is actually supposed to be a senior in high school this year, but instead he graduated a whole year early and joined the Trojans, winning the starting job earlier this week. I mean, that's crazy. Your thoughts?
That's insane. That's literally somebody at my age playing for a top 5 or a Power 5 conference and starting the very first week of the season. He's supposed to be in high school. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. He's gonna be playing in like nationally televised games that have playoff implications. Like, millions of people are gonna tune in to watch a 17-year-old play quarterback.
A lot of pressure for him, and I hope the nerves don't get to him because I hope he does well.
I mean, that's pretty wild. I don't think I could handle that pressure. I mean,
Definitely
your thoughts,
not.
Colton?
Holy crap. This dude has got to be one of the most insane athletes we've ever seen. He's 17, supposed to be in high school, starting quarterback for USC. I'm 17, a senior in high school, struggling to make varsity, trying to get into college.
I mean, yeah,
Like, what is
that's pretty
this?
wild. This guy's definitely a gifted athlete, and actually, in a video that will have already been released by the time this is released, I have USC as one of my 11 teams that can make the playoffs. I mean, imagine. I mean, he'll be 18 by then, but
I'm rooting for this guy.
yeah,
I hope
this
he can
is
do it.
wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if this
This is
kid pans
crazy.
out, they could definitely make the playoffs.
So yeah, that's our dude of the week, JT Daniels. I mean, first we got a guy skydiving without a parachute. Now we have a 17-year-old playing quarterback for USC. Like, how are we really gonna keep one upping this? Like, this is gonna be impossible.
We've got to have a dud one of these times.
All right, you know what? So next up, heading back to the NBA, Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving are both 100% healthy. They've been cleared to start training camp next week. And your guys' thoughts on them being able to play now?
I'm interested in seeing how Gordon Hayward comes back after his injury. I mean, he was out the whole year except for, 5 minutes?
Yeah, basically
I mean,
5 minutes. He had
yeah.
2 points.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
something.
he did get stats.
I've seen videos of him. I know how you feel about videos and people shooting threes, but I've seen him shooting, and he looks like he still has a shot.
You know, and the more important thing for me, like, the shots you can constantly keep up, like, that's not a huge issue to me. He'll always be able to shoot. Like, Larry Bird could probably go out and beat almost any NBA player in, like, a three-point competition right now. But the most important thing for me is these agility drills that we're beginning to see him do with, like, the tennis balls and stuff. That, to me, really shows that he's coming back full force. So, I think this is really good for the Celtics, and they're going to be a really great team this year.
And to our not weekly segment, but occasional segment of who's developing a 3-point shot. I saw a video the other day of Tristan Thompson.
Stop.
No.
He hit
Okay.
3 threes.
No.
Go
The
check
audio-
out the video.
3
It's on Rico
threes?
Hines or Hometown Hoops YouTube. I'll show you the video after this.
Stop. Okay, so the audience doesn't know, but Easton likes to do this thing where occasionally, and occasionally is a nice word, constantly, he likes to tell me that a certain NBA power forward or center is developing a 3-point shot when they're not. I mean, the
Rudy
list
Gobert,
of people...
Steven Adams.
That's
Clint
like saying
Capella.
Shaquille O'Neal's developing a 3-point
Yeah, you
shot.
need to stop.
He didn't need to though. The new center, you're gonna have to have at least a
but these
mid-range
guys can't-
shot.
you can't-
Hassan Whiteside, Andre Drummond.
Stop.
Andre
You're
Drummond is gonna
embarrassing.
start
This
sh-
is going on the internet.
Why
This
don't we
is
just
going on
focus
YouTube.
on their free
When I
throw
see-
percentages first, then we'll get to
Andre
the
Drummond
threes.
actually is a pretty good
When
free
I
throw
see-
shooter, but
Yeah, you're
a
right.
60%. Good for him.
I mean,
But,
better than 30. That's double.
That's true. But when you see Andre Drummond hitting a 3 this year, you're gonna come and thank me and be like, "Oh, thank
No,
you for
that's
telling me
not-
about
Hitting
this."
It's not
a
gonna
3, not
happen.
multiple
You're
threes.
delusional. Like, seriously, you think these guys are just like out of the blue, they're going to pick up a basketball. 2 months later, they're going to be like proficient
They
3-point
train.
shooters.
Yeah, you're
in the
acting
You realize
NBA.
they're NBA players and they go to
Okay,
the gym
but these
every day
guys
to
are
work
not
out.
talented.
You're acting like they're going to be all Steph
NBA
Curry.
players aren't talented?
Okay, most NBA centers are like trust fund kids. They're
Well, I
7
mean, we've
feet
had
tall,
this
and the
argument
only
before.
reason they're in the NBA is because they're 7 feet tall.
Boban Marjanovic.
Zaza
Darko
Pachulia. Do these
Milicic.
people have
Zaza
any
Pachulia shot?
discernible basketball skills? These people can barely
You said
dribble.
his name wrong. It's
You know-
Zaza Pachulia shot.
I mean, if you're a Spurs fan out there, yeah, you should be mad at Zaza, honestly. That
Dish-
electric shuffle he
vicious.
did, that ended the Spurs dynasty. We'll get to that in a little bit. But anyway, getting
Super
back
Kawaii.
on topic. So, do we think that the Celtics are a legitimate threat to the Warriors this
Oh,
year?
yeah. Oh, yes. They're coming for the Warriors. As long as Irving and Hayward stay healthy, they have a definite shot at getting to him. Jason Tatum's going to develop into an all-star. Al
Not
Horford,
Jaylen
he's
Brown,
old.
though.
But if he can still play decent, they should have a good chance at beating the Warriors.
To me, the Celtics, they aren't they aren't contenders to beat them, but they're the closest thing to being they have the system built to beat a team like the Warriors. But I don't think anybody's gonna beat the Warriors this year. But maybe next year when they can't sign DeMarcus Cousins, there's teams they're gonna get tired of, or they're
Yeah.
gonna get lazy, and you never know.
I mean, as much as I'd love to agree with you on that, like, the Celtics are so stacked, and they're younger, they're hungrier, and you spoke about the mental wear and tear that that is put on a team that continues to win and win and win without really having to try. I think the Celtics are still hungry and working at it, and I think Boston. You know what? I'll say it right now. my pick for the 2019 NBA champion is the Boston Celtics. I mean, it's not radical, but it's not a favorite, of course.
Actually, I'm going to go back on that. I agree with you. The Celtics, they definitely could beat them, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, there's a bit of a difference of opinion. You don't think they will, but you think they can.
I think they'll make the finals,
definitely
and they'll
think
get
they
2
will.
games on them. It'll be 4-2 series, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that, but I honestly have to
They have a
believe
good
that I think
defense.
the Celtics can win the NBA championship. But of course, it's like it's a 4-horse race, right? Probably 3. The Rockets, the Warriors,
maybe.
the Celtics. That's pretty much it.
I think it's the Celtics Warriors. We'll have to see what the Rockets do
Pretty
this
much,
year.
yeah. So, especially with the strength of the West, I mean, the Rockets are, just going to continue to get beat up by other teams.
Mhm.
It's probably just the Warriors and the Celtics. So, just going on to our little last subtopic on this. So, do we think with the return of Hayward and Irving that the growth of the younger players like Tatum and Brown is going to get stunted a little bit?
I don't know. I think yes, a little bit, because there's gonna not be enough shots for everybody. Just like the Warriors, everybody, their scoring went down once they all came together. Just like DeMarcus Cousins it's gonna happen to him this year. Tatum's scoring might go up because how many points a game did he have last year?
I think 13 and a half, but like 16
He's gonna
and a half in the
start. I
playoffs.
think he's gonna be at power forward. You think?
Yeah, I think the starting lineup will probably be Irving, Brown, Hayward, Tatum, Horford. That probably makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't really need a true power forward in the NBA
I think
anymore.
Jaylen Brown and Terry Rozier will not be as effective because there's just not as many shots to go around, like I said.
Yeah, but I'm also interested to see where does Marcus Smart fit into all this? Because I mean Jaylen
I
Brown's
forgot about him.
playing 2 guard. Well, the thing that I'm really hoping for is now that they have so many talented players and shooters, when Marcus Smart is on the floor, he's not going to shoot.
He's just gonna be the defender and the
yeah,
playmaker.
The
A
designated,
Rondo.
the designated defender on the team. There's literally no reason on the Boston Celtics for Marcus Smart to take a shot. It's
There's
absurd.
not.
There's no need for it. It's just
But
a waste.
We know he will.
Of course he will, because he's Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
But just put him on the court for defense. Don't let him shoot.
Take his arms off, or his hands at least.
Be like our old coach did. Be like our coach did this last basketball season.
Shout out Tony
you're
Curtis.
not shooting threes.
Shout out Tony Curtis.
Tony Curtis, my man.
All right, so with that, let's move on to the final topic of the day. Manu Ginobili has retired from the NBA. He did that on Monday. He's a 4-time NBA champion, 2-time All-Star, former 6th Man of the Year, and an Olympic gold medalist. And he's retiring from the Spurs after 16 NBA seasons. Your guys' thoughts on Ginobili's career as a whole?
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer to me.
Amen.
His NBA credentials are spectacular, but that's not it. The NBA or the Basketball Hall of Fame isn't just NBA. He had an amazing run in the EuroLeague. Was that what he was?
Yeah. He played in the EuroLeague.
The international league.
Just also internationally as well. He won an Olympic gold medal in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the American players that were on that team.
And how
Kobe,
salty they
Shaq,
were.
Tim Duncan. Manu Ginobili beat them. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing.
And I mean, he's won 4 titles. He's a 6th Man of the Year award winner, and he's a 2-time All-Star. I mean, he's just everything you want in a player, because he easily could have been a better player if
Right.
he wasn't a 6th man, because
Yeah.
he could have gone to another team and he probably would have been, I don't know, 8, 10-time All-Star with
Right.
another team. And
But he's selfless. That's what you're
gotta
kind of
respect
leading
him.
into. He was willing to sacrifice for the greater good, and that's what I think a lot of players, we're starting to see this with just players leaving at the drop of a hat. We were talking about earlier today the college football, the backup quarterbacks just transferring out at the sight of the fact that they're
they're scared
second
for the
string.
competition.
That's
they're
just
scared of competition.
Their
and-
mindset is me first instead of team first.
Right,
with
and
that.
that's what Manu for me he represented. He was so selfless, and he's totally for the team. Of course, if you play for Greg Popovich, you have to buy into that. But the fact that he was, a cornerstone of this franchise for as long as he was, and the leader he turned into, just shows you how selfless and actually really talented he was. You alluded to the fact that he was a really great player and could have been even better, but he respected the Spurs and Popovich and his decisions, and that's what made him a really great player.
He took it like a real professional with that.
I wish more players were like that in the NBA now. I feel like, or just in all sports, everybody's selfish. They want to get their money. They want to get out there. They want to get their popularity, whatever, like Kawhi Leonard. But if you if you accept your role and you build as a team, you're gonna become a good team eventually, and you're gonna win titles after titles, just like Ginobili did.
Yeah, I mean, loyalty is a big part of it, and that's a really kind of a bigger picture argument between, like, well, the franchises they're not necessarily loyal to players when they trade them, but it's going to become an interesting thing where are any players really loyal to any franchises? So that can be something we talk about in a later podcast.
Yeah.
But another question I have for you guys: so where amongst international players do you guys rank Ginobili?
I'd have to say probably top 3, to be honest. I mean, you have Dirk and Ginobili, and then who else is
Yao
there really?
Ming.
I mean,
Yao Ming didn't
Yao.
really play enough.
Yeah.
On my list, I have Hakeem Olajuwon number 1.
Yeah.
I have Dirk number 2, Tony Parker number 3, and Manu number 4. That also being said, I didn't count Canadian players because I was like, that's close enough.
Or you
So
can count
Steve
Andrew
Nash.
Wiggins? No, I'm
Well, no.
joking.
Steve
Anthony
Nash.
Bennett.
Steve
Put
Nash.
Anthony Bennett on the list.
No.
Anthony Bennett.
So I didn't count Steve Nash because I was like, close enough. Canada. Yeah. So
Canada.
Manu is he's up there in the international players list. And actually, when I was looking at that, I was kind of researching international players, and I realized like there's not a lot from the past. There's like
Andrea
more.
Bargnani.
Yeah, there's more players now that are international than there ever were in like the cumulative history of the NBA. So that just kind of shows you actually how global
It'll be
the NBA
interesting
game
with,
is becoming.
Doncic, how he does with his career. Is he going to be on the top 5?
I feel Doncic being a superstar at
Yeah,
the end of the day.
I mean, well,
I have him as bust, but
you have Doncic
I'll
from.
see.
I mean, okay, that's an argument for another day.
Yeah, we're not gonna
Let's
Jeez.
get
not
into
get
that.
into that.
So
That'll be another
Doncic
10
from
minutes.
Slovenia, if he's good or not, but like the Greek Freak, obviously from Greece, Porzingis from Lithuania, and you have a ton of French players and Spanish players in the league. The Gasols, of course, Dennis Schroeder from Germany. So it just shows you the growth of the league globally, and I think that's represented in Ginobili's career, like from the time he entered the league to him exiting. Like the growth of the game internationally and in Argentina specifically was hugely helped by him. So going into our last little topic here, let's kind of reflect upon the Big Three's dominance and, of course, the Spurs dynasty as a whole, as it's kind of now coming to a close without Kawhi, Ginobili, and the other guys.
Definitely one of the greatest dynasties of all time. I mean, they've dominated the basically since Duncan got there, which was what, 98, 99,
97.
97?
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Close
but,
enough.
Close enough, yeah. But I mean, they made the playoffs every single year?
Every single
I
year.
believe so.
Every single year that Duncan has been there.
And
Well,
I think
And since he left.
since he
since
left.
he left, and I don't think they're
21
done yet.
straight seasons.
I don't think they're done yet. I mean, I have them to make the playoffs this year with DeRozan leading them. I mean, Popovich is gonna make DeRozan
Yeah.
get the
Well,
best out of
they're
him.
better than they were last season because last
Oh,
season they
definitely.
had their current squad as it's constructed minus Kawhi
Rudy
Leonard.
Gay was their best
and
player.
now you have
Oh,
your
and
current
Aldridge,
squad
sorry.
with Lowry. Well,
Mm-hmm.
LaMarcus Aldridge is pretty forgettable. He's
Yeah.
become quite the forgettable superstar.
I never
He's-
realized how old he was, but I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
he's
talk
old.
about that.
LaMarcus Aldridge is like what, 33, 34?
Yeah,
Yeah. He's getting up there. I mean, he was in Portland since like 2005 and he just so that's So
talk about that another time.
talk about that another time. But the Spurs dynasty, it's absurd. I was watching I think like a goodbye clip or like so,
Farewell
a
video.
farewell video for Ginobili that I think like ESPN or somebody put together, and there's an interesting soundbite that he says there's never a year that I came to training camp or played for the Spurs that I didn't think we could win. And I look back, they won 4 championships under Ginobili. They made it to the Western Conference Finals like 8 or 9 times. And there's legitimately not a year that the Spurs couldn't have won the title or weren't legitimate contenders. That's pretty amazing.
Ginobili is definitely, or he's probably my favorite player out of the big three, out of Parker and Duncan, just because I just respect him how he took a lesser role, even though he could have done way more with his career.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a shame to finally see. I mean, I'm sure the Spurs being good isn't over, of course, with Popovich, but the Spurs being great has been over basically since
Duncan retired.
Yes,
since
definitely.
Kawhi got rolled up.
Oh yeah.
pretty
yeah,
much.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
they were
Zaza.
They've been
beating the
solid
Warriors.
top 4 seeds.
Yeah, so
Well, I feel like that. I'm not even gonna get into
yeah,
that.
let's not get into that. But I think it's kind of sad to see the Spurs finally go because they were kind of an extremely consistent franchise. They're like the New England Patriots of the NBA, and it's amazing how consistently good they were, but the way they did it, they were so clean, so fresh, and they were the correct brand of basketball that the NBA should be marketing and wanted to market for a time there. And it's so impressive how consistently good they were, honestly.
It'll be interesting to see how much longer Popovich stays, because that's a big four.
I want to see how long the streak goes.
Yeah.
Well,
So they
probably
finally
not
don't make it.
much past Popovich, especially if DeRozan leaves. But I think
how many years does he have left?
He has
DeRozan?
2 years left. Oh, Popovich has 2 years left. DeRozan also has 2 years left. I think a lot of people have been saying that Popovich is going to use the 2020 Olympics because he'll be the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be his farewell, which I totally see being a thing. But Popovich, he's had an amazing coaching career, and honestly, without Ginobili and Duncan and Parker and Kawhi Leonard and David Robinson, it's really not the same. I mean,
Mm-mm.
and without Ginobili, that's finally just like that last piece of the puzzle from all those years of dominance. It's finally gone, and like you look at the Spurs and you don't see any Spurs that you think of as
It's kind of sad
on the roster. Yeah, it's like it's truly the end of an era. We thought it was the end in 2014 or in 2015 when Duncan retired after they lost in the second round. We thought it was over a couple weeks ago when Parker signed with the Hornets. We thought it was over a month ago when Kawhi got traded. But this is the end of the end for sure.
This is the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, not saying the Spurs can't make the playoffs, but honestly, I know this conversation is kind of turning into the future for the Spurs, but what are they going to do, honestly? This team's really not that good. Like, not that Ginobili was like an all-star that was like going to push him into the playoffs, but
gotta get that. That's a famous. I gotta get that picture in my room of him blocking Harden on that. Where Harden could have hit that three.
We gotta make that the profile picture for our channel.
That man was like 38, 39 when he did
Instagram.
that.
Go follow him.
That's hustle. That's hustle right there, And, Ginobili, I think he'll forever live on in some of the greatest NBA teams of all time. The 03 Spurs, the 07 Spurs, the 14 Spurs, of course, like that great passing clinic they put on against the Heat. He was kind of the main pivot, in that. And I think he's a historically great player. I think we're right. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. His selflessness should be, shown to players nowadays, and he should be a template for how to be an NBA player, regardless of whether or not you're as talented as other people. The way he played with his hustle, that Harden block, that is the embodiment of hustle.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden can juke Ginobili any day of the week, but that play
he wanted it more.
Yeah, he wanted it more. That shows absolute hustle, and of course that helped the Spurs win that series. But yeah, Ginobili is a great NBA player, and it's not fun to see him go, but everybody's got their time after 16 really great NBA seasons.
It's so crazy how fast the Spurs dynasty has went too. I mean, it feels like yesterday I was just watching him play in the finals against the Heat.
Well, we were so used to them being so dominant every year.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could see more of them, but
that's what YouTube is for.
All good things have
there's
to come
plenty
to an
of good. There's a solid like 14 years where all of them are on the same. All the big three is all on the same team. So, I mean, this it's sad to see him go, but everybody's got their time, and I'd rather see him go when he thinks he's ready as opposed to see him like increasingly getting less. I mean, he played like 16 minutes a game, which is pretty good still. So that's pretty much it for episode 3. This has been a fun one with you guys. So joining me was
Easton Nelson,
Colton Deneen,
and I'm Marco Yerkovich, and this is Dudes Being Guys Sports Podcast signing off.